Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew this asymmetric neckline bustier gown with basque. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern paper and it's on fold. So the first thing you're going to do is to mark out your basic measurements, which includes your shoulder to bust line, your shoulder to under bust line, your shoulder to waist line, your shoulder to basque line. So for the basque line, I added extra 4 inches, so you can use 4 to 5 inches for your basque. Next, you want to mark your shoulder divided by 2 plus half and come down by 1 inch. So why we are adding this ½ inch to the shoulder is because this dress has a sleeve, and now I'll go ahead to connect this all the way to that point. I'll go ahead and mark 3 inches at this point, and I'll go ahead to blend off my shoulder. After this, I'll go down by 3 inches. This will be serving as a guide to draw out my neckline. So I marked a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches. Next, you want to go ahead to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine is 7 inches, and I'll go ahead to mark. Now I'll place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line at this point. And after I'm done drawing this out, I'll go ahead to mark what I have at the chest line on that point, which is 7.5, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and draw out a straight line. So next, you're going to divide that point into 2, that is your armhole part, and you come in by ½ inch. Now you want to go ahead to mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Go ahead to connect from the upper part to the ½ inch and to that point. I'll just go ahead and I'll use my marker to outline this and also the neckline. After I'm done marking this, you want to go ahead to mark your dart intake, which is your nipple to nipple divided by 2, and my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I'm going to mark that all the way from the upper part of my pattern to the lower part. So next, I'll be marking a dart intake of 1 inch. So for a plus size or someone that is a bit busty, go ahead to use 1.5 inches on both sides of the line or your dart. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline this. After I'm done outlining, now I'll connect from the bust to the under bust. I'll go ahead to blend in what I have on that side and also connect at the other side. So after I'm done connecting this way, the next step I'm going to take is to divide what I have on my shoulder into 2. So for this pattern, I'm making use of a shoulder dart, and I'll go ahead to connect this all the way to the upper part of my shoulder. After I'm done marking this, I'll just mark 1 inch on top because I don't want to have much gaping on this pattern, because we are using an ankara for the upper part, which is not so stretchy like a corset mesh or your normal mesh. So I'll just go ahead and reconnect my dart. So this dart, now you're going to blend it in, and also remember, whatever you take out, you replace at the shoulder. So I replaced that 1 inch at the shoulder and I blended it into the armhole. So I'll just shade out my dart to indicate we have a dart at that point. So next, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now where you want your cup to start, go ahead to take the measurement, mark it, and then measure the dart you have at that point. Go ahead to replace it by the side and add your sewing allowance. Next, you want to move over to the under bust of your pattern. Go ahead to mark the under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake and also add your sewing allowance. You can decide to take your waist measurement all the way to the lower part, but for this pattern, I'm just going to leave it to stop at the waistline. And after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So after I'm done connecting, you want to come in by your sewing allowance, and I'll also transfer all these measurements to the other side. So next, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches after my chest line, because you want to draw out your bustier area for this pattern, and I'll mark it on both sides of the pattern. Connect it from my armhole to that point, and you're going to blend in your dart because you want it to match with the other part of your pattern. You can go down by ½ inch after your your chest line or your bust line, just go ahead to do what works for you, and then go ahead to connect to the other side also, and also go ahead to extend it to the armhole. I'll go ahead and blend in what I have here very well, and next I'm just going to go ahead to outline this and also extend it to my armhole, or the armhole part of my dress. So this is what I have here right now, and next you want to connect from that line to the neckline of your pattern. So after you're done connecting, blend in the dart. This is where the other yoke of the dress is going to start. Go ahead and use my gum to hold this up at this point. I don't really have a tape available, and I'll just make use of my water gum. So I'll just go ahead and I will blend this out. So this is what I have for this part, and this is the yoke of my dress. So now for the basque part of this dress, I will go ahead and blend in my pattern this way, and I'll go ahead to draw out the basque of the dress. Go in or blend in your dart, and I will go ahead to connect this, because you don't want to one side of the basque not to meet the other side. That's why we are blending the dart, and I'll go ahead to draw this out. After I'm done outlining it with my marker, I'll go ahead to cut it out so that the other side will have the same shape. So after I'm done cutting it out, I'll open it up this way, and now I'll go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So for this side of the pattern, you're going to cut out or blend in your dart also. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comments at the comment section, and if you have any other question you want to ask about this pattern, go ahead to ask that too. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out, and also the other side of my pattern. And after I'm done cutting out, this is what I have. I'll trace the upper part to make sure that the sides meet. So this is it, and we'll move over to the back. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurement, and I used the neckline of 3 by 1.5 inches. I marked a zipper allowance of 1.5 at the back. So next you want to insert your dart intake. To do that is also to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. Draw out a straight line at that point. So here's the bust, here's the under bust, here is the waistline. So next I'm going to go ahead to insert my measurement at this point and add my sewing allowance. After doing that, I'll come down to the bust by 1 inch, and I'll mark ½ inch on both sides for my dart, and I'll go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting this, I'll go ahead to insert my body measurement for this pattern. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. So if you notice, I'm using a basic bustier pattern. I don't have a bust dart. The waistline in front is the same as the back. So after connecting, I'll go ahead to mark out the zipper. Now I'll just go ahead and connect, and I will be going in by ½ inch here. Go ahead to extend it all the way to the lower part, and also extend it to the upper part. This is to take care of the bulginess at the back of the dress, and I'll go ahead to cut out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comment at the comment section. So for the skirt pattern, if you notice, I marked about 1.5 inches, and you can also use 2 inches for the zipper allowance. So I want to cut out my pattern together. So I'll go ahead to fold this in, and I'll start taking my measurement. This only works if you're cutting out your skirt pattern on a pattern paper before placing. So next, at the upper part, I'll go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4. But before doing that, you have to mark your waist to hip point, which is 7 inches, or 8 inches for a much taller person. So for the total length of my dress is 35.5 plus folding allowance of 1.5 I'm using, making it 36 inches. So the total length of my dress is 36 inches. To get your full length, mark your shoulder to waist point, which we've marked at the upper part of this dress. From that point, you're now going to place your tape at the waistline and then get the full length of your dress. So after you're done marking this, now you're going to mark out the line at your hip point. So after I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to insert my measurement. At the waistline, I'll go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll be adding my sewing allowance. When I'm making a bustier or corset dress, I don't use that for the lower parts. And after this, I'll mark my hip circumference and add my sewing allowance there. And remember, we are not snatching our waist, so our waist at the upper part is still our waist at the skirt part. So whatever you have on your hip point, take out 2 inches from it and mark at the lower part. So from my hip, I'll extend to the upper part of my pattern and I will extend it to the lower part of my pattern. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. After cutting it out, I'll go ahead and open it up. So if I want to cut out the front, I'll have to close up the zipper. If I'm cutting for the back, I'll open the zipper. So here is a trick I use for my skirts. I always go in by 1/2 inch at the waist and come down. So this 1/2 inch, you're going to replace it by the side when you're cutting it out. This is to make this part of your skirts go in very well or relaxed at the back of the dress pattern. I marked my starting point, my shoulder to elbow, and where my sleeve stops. Next, you need to find your sleeve cap height, and to find that is your bust circumference divided by 12 plus 0.5 inches. So I'll label this as cap height, elbow, and where my sleeve will stop. At your sleeve cap height, go ahead to mark your armhole circumference divided by 2. Mine is 16 divided by 2. I have 8 inches. So after marking, I'll connect from that point all the way to the tip of the line before the starting point. So now I'm going to be dividing this part into 2. First, I'll fold my tape this way and I will mark the midpoint of this tape, the midpoint of my line, and from here I'll divide it by 2 again and I will mark. After dividing it, I'll come up by 1/2 inch here. Go ahead to divide the other side and I'll fold. Go ahead to mark the midpoint and come down by 1/2 inch at that point. So after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead and connect this, starting from the midpoint all the way to the upper part and to the starting line. And after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead and extend this all the way to the lower part of the sleeve cap height. Now after connecting this is what I have. I'll go in with my marker and I will outline this out. After marking this out, I'll mark my elbow circumference divided by 2 and add my sewing allowance. Mark the lower part of my wrist divided by 2 and add my sewing allowance. I'll go ahead and connect this all the way to the lower part of my pattern and I'll extend this down to the wrist part. So after I'm done cutting this, we'll go ahead to cut out the sleeve part, the flare part of this sleeve, which is into 2 pieces. One which is longer and the other one which is shorter. So after cutting out my sleeve, go ahead to add 1/2 inch on top for joining of the sleeve. So I'm just going to work with this, and let's say we are cutting a 180-degree flare. To cut that, you need to fold your pattern in a triangular form. So let's say what you have round your wrist is 8 inches. You're going to measure that. Go ahead to draw like a rough curve where you have that 8 inches. So from the closed part to that point, go ahead to measure and mark what you have to where your curve started. So take that round and remeasure or reconnect the lines. So from here, you're going to mark the length of the flare. So you can use 5 inches and 8 inches, or you can use 4 inches and 8 inches. So any measurement of your choice. So when you're cutting this, after cutting this, you're now going to place and trace out. But in the video, the sewing video, I will have to record this just in case you don't understand how I cut this out. So after this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial, and join us in the sewing video.